What's up? Episode 15 of In the AM with MC. We've been back. We back after this little hiatus we had. We stepped out the fold for a little bit. Some stuff was going on. If you know, you know, you know. But let's get into the sports. Um, I really want to talk about Howard basketball. First of all, I hinted on the show that I thought Blake Harper could be headed to the transfer portal, and why would he not be, right? In the landscape of basketball today, he is what the transfer portal is all about, and that is so obvious that Sports Illustrated ended up doing an article on him. I didn't even get a chance to read the article yet because I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm sure 80% of it is stuff that I know because this is the reality for mid-major players. This is the reality for a lot of players that I am fans of because of what I like to watch and what's accessible for me to watch. And then I just see them end up other places. And it just happens. You end up paying attention to these guys that kind of gleam through. And having been an athlete at a school that I know is kind of like capped for resources a little bit. Like it's really phenomenal what Harper was able to do this year. I wasn't there at the school. I've never met the guy, but I met Elijah Hawkins. Elijah Hawkins was just in the Elite Eight with Texas Tech, who just lost to Duke, and Duke just lost to Houston. And Hawkins, what he was able to do at Howard, considering the circumstances, I'm sure is very similar to like what Harper was able to do at Howard. That being said, they lost in the championship this year to Norfolk State. Harper was never able to play with Bryce Harris, who was the preseason player of the year for the MEAC and defensive player of the year in the MEAC last year. 6'6", 230, strong. He can run the length of the floor. He can block dudes. He can put the ball in the cup. Harris was just a real strong leader for the team last year. And it's a shame he wasn't able to play this year. I think he broke his fibula like mid-season. And that that ends you for the season in most places, and it pretty much ended for the season. Like I kept being optimistic he would come back at some point. They had a lot of good players on their team too that are just going to be gone now. A couple of one-year rental guys that you had like Anwar Gill, but also some guys like Marcus Dockery, I think is probably done now. Um, yeah, like the complexion of the team is going to look so different next year. So Coach Blakeney and Coach Thornton, like, and Coach Sears, like they have their work cut out for them for kind of refilling that roster. But you think about a guy like Shaheem Oda, who played so well for us, who we got from Sierra Canyon, and then got hurt his second year. His first year, he played really well. I think he might have been like MEAC freshman of the year, or he was like first team. And then he just got hurt the second year, and he transferred to the University of Vermont. And it's like the University of Vermont. When you look at it like holistically, I just don't understand transferring from a school like Howard, um, as like or from certain schools at all. Like you see Lee over at Princeton, right? Like it's yet to be seen what's going to go on with his degree. He's a junior. He spent 3 years at that school. It's possible to graduate from school in 3 years. It's really, really hard to graduate from an Ivy League school, let alone Princeton in 3 years, while also playing basketball. I don't care who you are, right? So it's yet to be seen what happens with his degree. But why would you transfer from a school like Princeton? I just don't know. I don't know. And so yes, like we've seen a lot of people have things pay off for them for the better when they make some of these transfers. But I feel like there's so many more people whose lives have not actually, basketball wise at least, have not actually changed for the better, or even guys who get in these situations that they thought that they wanted, and then things go a little bit south. Like you see Coleman Hawkins in the way he was talking about going from Illinois to K-State. He was rumored to be like at the time the most expensive guy on the market, like $2 million or something like that. And every time he did press, he's crying. He's got dudes in his DMs telling him to take his own life. Like it's not as glamorous as people make it out to be for whatever reason, dollar amount, maybe facilities or privileges or even coaching, right? Like I understand going from a school where maybe your coach isn't as dedicated to going to St. John's, where you have Rick Pitino who eats, sleeps, and breathes basketball. But Coach Blakeney is as good as they come. He's played at Duke. He won national championships. His staff is phenomenal. Like Howard's environment is so warm and intimate, and like the borough is stacked. It's one of the hardest places to win at. You've seen that when Notre Dame has come and played in the house, and they on paper were like 50 spots ahead of us in the Ken Pop rankings that year, but it didn't matter. We've seen that when we played Harvard, when they've had some good years. We've seen that when we played Yale, when they had the likes of Azar Swain. And I just think that Um, it just I don't even want to say it brings me to the point of like rage because it's not that serious, but it maybe just it makes me shake my head like why people consistently would leave situations like this, especially when this is a coach who took a chance to you in the first place. Like you think about the team that Blakeney had last year, and all of those guys ended up going to the portal. Most of them as grad transfers, right? Like Jordan Wood, he went to Tulane. Steve Settle, he went to Temple, and Settle was a guy who he took a big chance on, right? He helped him out, and he ended up at Temple. Played two years at Temple. Um, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like a lot of these dudes, a lot of these women, on the women's side. I mean, there's like 2,000 women in the portal for basketball. A lot of these players should prioritize what works for them, And from the outside looking in, it doesn't look like that's happening, but I don't know everyone's situation. Um, Speaking of, right, four of the most pivotal players for the Howard women's team got into the portal. Um, Ty Walker, Sanaya King, Amir Allen, and Destiny Howell. All four of them got in the portal. And again, to each their own, right? But wow, like you guys are a part of a team that is coached by a great coach and has a deep team and is an attractive destination. Like Zanaya Thomas coming over from Kentucky. Yes, she has some off the court issues, but you see the way she's flourished on the court. Like she's a baller, she's a dog, and like it's an attractive destination, and you can win there. It's been proven. Um, Norfolk State women's team is way more than formidable. Like they're a powerhouse. They're a top 50 team every single year. You see that Vickers just left and he ended up going to Auburn, but I was able to see them at the height of what he was, contributing to their team. And you got to think even when like North Carolina A&T was also in the MEAC, Norfolk State was still who they were, and that's because of Coach Vickers and kind of like what's instilled in them and their mentality and how they play. But what we've seen is that's not translated to the men's game, and I'll talk about that in a second. Is that they've been rewarded with their play with favorable seeds, slightly more favorable than a 16. A 16 seed is the worst seed you can get in the tournament, point blank, period. But it's a little bit more manageable if you have like 12 or a 13 if you earn it. Or Jackson State, you see they got an 11 a couple of years ago, maybe last year. And these HBCU teams are right there in the women's game. Um, Slightly more so than the men's. And yeah, shout out to Coach Vickers going to Auburn. I saw a lot of people talking about that in the comments, saying it was a big swing for Auburn, taking a little bit of a leap of faith on him. And I think that that can be true, but you also have to give respect to Coach Vickers for what he has again been able to do with Norfolk State. They play scrappy basketball. When they play their non-conference schedule in the past 5 years, they've always like played those games within 5 points, whether they win or lose, and they've won more than they've lost. But whether they win or lose, they play all of these non-conference games within like 5, 10 points, and they're playing teams that are supposed to be better than them on paper and that more than likely have more funding than they do. And it doesn't matter. He coaches circles around them. Um, Shout out to their men's team. You have to put respect on their name. Coach Jones just signed a extension with them, and they're smart for signing him to an extension because he's a great coach as well. Like he could, in my opinion, be poached sooner rather than later. They signed him through to like 2029, 2030. But he's just a great coach. He knows how to win with so many different kinds of players. Like we've seen them beat teams, including us, with 3-point barrages, but we've also seen them beat teams playing inside out basketball. And that's a testament to him as a coach, scheming his personnel up, instilling the will to win. And Norfolk, like I said, Norfolk has earned everything that they have earned, from the way that they played, from the way that they believed in themselves, and from the way that they have just not budged in a lot of sports and just said like we're gonna do what we want to do. Basketball right now, they have that crown, and in track and field, indoor track and field, they stalwarted the men's attempt, a valiant attempt from the men this year. Um, from Howard. Yet again, it went women with the victory and men with the second place, and the opposite from Norfolk. Shout out to our women's team taking the W. They just came down here and ran at Texas relays and just lit up the track. They won the collegiate 4x2. They had second place in the 100-meter hurdles. I mean, shout out Aaron Hatcher. She's a dog. I should throw it with my good friend Aaron. She threw like 200 feet almost in a hammer. It's just hard to do. And out there competing on like 85 degrees, 90 degrees. Imagine and holding a hammer and having the dexterity and the wherewithal to throw that and to throw it well. Just shout out, huge shout out. Yeah, let's talk about a little bit of NBA basketball, and then we will shift to the NFL. So the Golden State Warriors, I'm not ready to say I was completely incorrect yet, but for the time being, my take is not looking great, right? I had said that Jimmy Butler going to their team instead of Andrew Wiggins to me kind of looked like a lateral move. It didn't look like too much would be different, and it looked like him and Draymond Green would not get along. It currently appears that I'm very incorrect. But I think that the the pulse of this team is less so about the Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler fit offensively. Like defensively, that's always gonna be important for them, right? Like any team in the NBA, it's about what your wings can and can't do for you, and how you protect the rim. But I believe that offensively, it's more so about Steph Curry and what you can get from a supplementary piece, right? Like Steph Curry is the guy, and some nights Jimmy Butler is going to be the second guy, but not every night he's going to be the second guy. And just because the playoffs is coming, I don't believe all that playoff Jimmy nonsense. He's not just going to become the second guy or even the first guy during the playoffs because he wants to. So is Buddy Hield going to have those points? Is it going to be Brandon Podzinski? Is it going to be Kaminga? Is it going to be Moses Moody? Who is it going to be to put the points on the board for the Golden State Warriors who's not named Wardell Curry? That's the question consistently. So I think that again, I clearly am wrong about the defensive fit and the overall gelling with Jimmy Buckets, but I still don't see them as a team that puts fear in the heart of a loaded Western Conference. This is beautiful parity on the Western side, because I believe that Nikola Jokic should be co-MVP with SGA. I'm going to talk about that on my next episode. I think if not co-MVP, I think he deserves it outright. The 60-point triple-double he put up the other day was unprecedented basketball, rarefied air. They're only in a competitive position in the stacked West because of him. Like he's overcoming so much on his own team while also maintaining the basketball brilliance that is Nikola Jokic. But yeah, the Golden State Warriors, I don't believe that they strike fear in the hearts of the top three teams in the West, being uh the Rockets, the Thunder, and I would consider the Lakers to be the third team in the West. I'm not sure who the actual third team in the West is. I think it's the Nuggets, but I just don't. Yeah, even whether you consider it to be the Nuggets or the Lakers, I don't see the Warriors beating those teams in the series. They did take it to the Lakers the other night, though. Um, and the Lakers right now are just really inconsistent. But if it comes down to a 7 game, you've seen Luka kind of do that where he didn't beat the Clippers during the season, but then when he sees them in the playoffs, it's chicken. So yeah, Golden State winning right now. If you're a Golden State fan, you gotta like what you see. But I think Stephen Curry is still going to decide how far they do or don't go offensively, unless somebody else can be like very consistent and formidable on offense outside of Curry and his outside shooting. Kate Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons are playing really, really good basketball up north. I talked about maybe on episode 8 about, the most improved award, and JJ Redick has recently been asked about this most improved award and about how we have to reward guys who are not ones that are supposed to succeed based on their career trajectory. Okay. Kate Cunningham coming from Montverde Academy and then going, I mean, he went to like Oklahoma State, which is not a conventional basketball powerhouse, but he did have a great year. He did have a couple triple doubles, I think. And to now, be the 1 or 2 pick or whatever he was, and to be doing what he's doing for Detroit, he's playing first team all NBA basketball. That has to be acknowledged. That has to be respected. That has to be rewarded at the end of the season. I think he's on pace to play like 74 or 78 games. The durability is really impressive, but this is not a most improved player, basketball player. I think Ty Jerome would be a good most improved player if we're being serious about the award, right? Like this is not a most improved player, basketball player. Motorcade is just doing stuff that you are supposed to do if you're in his position, but also stuff that is just elevating his team to places that make them a confusing matchup in the playoffs. They will be in the playoffs. I think they're sixth right now or fifth or sixth in the East. they're a confusing matchup. Could spell trouble. Could be a little upset in the first round. You never know from them guys. But my sleeper team is the Rockets to the finals. I believe I'm going to talk about that on the next episode as well. But just to give you a little preview, I watched the Rockets and Thunder game last night, and the way that they match up across the board is like a true game of chess, right? You got down low the two pairs of teams who probably use the 4 or 5 big pick and rolls the best, and also use their 4s and 5s like interchangeably the best. You know, Hartenstein and Chet, they play off each other. They have great charisma. They have great chemistry. And sometimes either one of them can like switch up and down the positions. You really only want Hartenstein at the 4 if Chet's gonna be at the 5. Like it's not like I'm saying he can be at the 4 to stretch because right now he can't shoot. He has not made a single three. But there are certain times where, like, for example, when it's they're playing against like Steven Adams and Şengün, that Şengün is at the 4 and they want Hartenstein on Şengün, and then but then that creates a Chet and Steven Adams mismatch down low on the block. You see Steven Adams manhandling Chet. But Chet can get by Steven Adams off the bounce, off the bump. So I mean, you have like really cool basketball going on. You got Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, SGA as the wings, and on the other side you got Amen Thompson, you got Jalen Green, you have Dylan Brooks. Like you have like dudes who are playing must see basketball. I think that the Rockets can go as far as the Rockets as Udoka takes them. Udoka is he is a guy who it does not seem like I personally would be friends with. You know, like he doesn't seem like a guy I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, I can't wait to hang out with Ime. Like he seems like a little bit tight wound and like a little bit of a SOB, and that wins basketball games. There's tons of coaches who are actually like that. Every coach is not going to be a charismatic Zen master or like a player's coach. You know, every coach is not going to be those. Like some of them are just going to be straight up a-holes. And they embrace it because they want to win it, and I think that makes it they think it makes them edgy, whatever. But like that, but yeah, like he is that. Udoka is that, and I think that if the team embraces that persona, like he is kind of like making them, then they can go really far. Like I just don't see like a doubt that they can be a team that is really productive in the playoffs and that kind of controls games. They have depth, right? Reed Shepherd is really coming into his own and playing well in short spurts. Like they're finding time to get him 7 to 9 minutes a game. And sometimes he can get 10, 12, 15 points. Like he can be a Peyton Pritchard type for them. You know, but he can also run the point. But I think Pritchard is really showing people that the 6'1", 6'2", highly skilled off guard is not out of style. Like that is like a Brandon Roy type. You know, I think Pritchard is really like comparable game wise to like a Brandon Roy. Think about the way he plays, his balance, his pace, and his skill. Like he does not have supreme athleticism. It's about his skill. Austin Reeves, it's about his skill. And these dudes are dudes that you want on the floor. And I think that's who Anthony Simons is. You know, a guy who is not a traditional guard playing for it's not Golden State, for Portland. But I don't think he gets enough like hype. You know, they have a lot of young dudes. It's like a farm over there. They got him, they got Shaden Sharp, they got Scoot. They're bound to break through. I think they'll probably get like flag, you know, but they're bound to break through. You know, they're like knocking on the door of something great. This is the 15th episode of In the AM with MC. We're going to take a brief hiatus to talk about the song of the day. We have I Was the Life of the Party by the Dramatics. Clap it up for the Dramatics. But Detroit, when I think about Detroit, I think about Motown. I think about music. I think about soul, you know, the Detroit soul. And there's so many groups that came out of Detroit that rivaled any area. And you just see the way that they stack up. And it's unfortunate that maybe not all of those people have their like household names. Maybe not all of those people's families have been able to be taken care of financially for their cultural impact. But the Dramatics have that cultural impact. And I have 3 or 4 Dramatics records, and all of them, they just take me to that place, man. I love them. I really do. Like, and I Was the Life of the Party is a joint that you can throw on anywhere. You know, you could be on a run and hear it. You could be lifting and hear it. You could be at a party and throw it on. You can sing it a little bit. But it's like, it's a little bit tragic, you know? There's a little bit of like that when he's like, I laughed till I almost cried, and they like repeat it, they just repeat that. And thinking about that feeling of laughing till you almost cry, and then missing that feeling of having that, knowing what that's like, because people always talk about like, am I having fun? Am I enjoying this? But feeling that like I laughed, it's it's a song I can wax poetic about. I truly can. But I was live at a party by the Dramatics. I think he came out like 72, 75. Them dudes knew what to do. Okay, let's talk about the NFL in the episode. Joe Milton is traded to the Cowboys. This is a move that I'm gonna hate if he turns out to torch the league. I wanted the Giants to trade for Joe Milton because I was like, he's probably only worth like a fifth right now. Pretty sure that's what they got for him. I think it was something like, I think they sent I think New England sent him in exchange. I think him and a third maybe in exchange for a fifth, something like that. I don't know. I don't know what the exact deal was. It might have been him for a third and a fifth, but the point is like Joe Milton plays football, man. Like he didn't really look like what he was supposed to look like in Michigan, considering what he was on paper. And I was disappointed in that. But when he went to Tennessee, I started to see a little bit of flashes. I think Tennessee has underrated and has had underrated quarterback development. You look at Hendon Hooker too, a guy that played at Tennessee and is a developed, semi-developed quarterback, at least at the backup position, and is yet to be seen at the starter position because he hasn't been given a fair shot. But Joe Milton can play ball, and Dak Prescott is not a guy who has been known to play through a full season. Even if he does get to the full season, sometimes he'll come back and be like battered. And it's clear that he's really trying to actually finish the season for the incentives. I don't think people talk about that enough, like especially with quarterbacks. Like a lot of quarterbacks rush themselves back from injury, not because they care about the team, not because, oh, I come back and the team is 8-4 or the team is 9-2, but they come back because their contract pays them more if they play a higher percentage of games. And so they would rather play a game a little bit battered, knowing that they played a stinker and the team lost, if that's the game that triggers an extra 500,000 to $4 million in their contract. And that's a terrible way to think about some of these guys that you might look up to, but that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. That's their reality. They're putting food on their family's tables. So they think about stuff that way. And that's just what they do. But I like the tools that Milton has, and I think that he is better than any quarterback that's in the draft right now. And that's not a radical thing to say or knock on any of these quarterbacks. So if you're the Cowboys, you don't have to draft a quarterback in this round. You can just focus on making the rest of the team better, because that's what you should do, because you're about to sign Michael Parsons to an extension that's going to hurt your pockets. You're going to have Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and him for a short window together, similar to the Bengals, who I'm about to discuss, having these guys together for a short window. Just basically saying, like, we know it's going to be a short window. We know it's going to hurt our pockets. Here we go. Let's do it. Do it. Come on. Win for us, guys, please, because this is all we have. At this point, you guys are all that we have. That's the message that they're sending. And I think that it's being received, but these guys, they care about the money they can make. It's just that some of them are shameless about it, some of them aren't. Like Tyreek Hill is shameless. All of the moves he's making, he's trying to justify, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But we know it's for the money, right? Like you got on a podcast and you said that Tua Tagovailoa throws a better ball than Patrick Mahomes, who's been in 5 Super Bowls. You don't even believe that a little bit, but you went to a team that would pay you 35 or $30 million a year, or whatever they paid him, right? Like that's what that's about. And so a lot of these guys, they actually really are playing for that money. And I would consider Prescott to be one of the players who would rather compete injured and be kind of junk, knowing that he's making money for himself. And I think Jerry Jones is tired of that. He's old, but he's not dumb. I think he's tired of that. So look out, Dak Prescott, possibly a little bit of trouble in paradise. Joe Milton, maybe not the starter this year, but possibly the starter next year. Last thing we're going to talk about today is, what are the Bengals doing? Let's backtrack. Joe Burrow goes out and he makes it very clear to ownership publicly. He says, I need you to re-sign my 2 guys that I throw the football to. That's fine. But here's the thing. Ownership, you could have been done that. You franchise tagged T. Higgins a bunch of times, who is a player who is more than a franchise tag and deserves like that stability. And that's a slap in the face. You play very tough football in the AFC North. These guys want to know that life is taken care of for them off the field. They don't want to be on the field always thinking about that stuff. They want to be on the field thinking about the field stuff. And believe it or not, that stuff does make a difference. Players who are playing thinking about those things, actually are impacted. So I mean, he signs this like 4 year, 115 deal. I think it was, I can't remember what Jamar Chase's was. I think it was like 4 years, like 184, something silly like that. So you have these two receivers now who are tied together for 4 years. Each of them are paying like about at least $27 million a year. And that's just nuts, right? Like that is nuts. I mean, you as a team, those two and your quarterback are making silly, silly, silly money. There's a lot of good players on their team, but right now, I think that's one of the knocks on their team is that they don't have enough good players in enough good places to compete. They don't, and you're not going to make it now in free agency by throwing money at players because there's no other money to throw. You have Trey Hendrickson who is going to demand like 35 average per year because of the market now that Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, and soon Micah Parsons have changed. So you guys are screwed. Like they have to improve through the draft, or Joe Burrow is going to have to keep doing some more begging and pleading to his guys and getting them to come play with him. But they're going to have to play for less money. Like they can't give out these super big deals anymore. So that's going to have to be it for them. They're going to have to do the best they can with a lot less. And the only reason they have a lot less is because as an ownership group, they didn't pay these guys when they should have paid these guys. Okay. So yeah, like the AFC North is a really competitive conference. It's really competitive, excuse me, it's a really competitive division. But them throwing the house at these two receivers now to play next to Joe Burrow is cute, but like they're really gonna struggle paying the rest of their roster. They're really gonna struggle competing against the Steelers when they figure out their quarterback situation. They're really gonna struggle competing against Lamar Jackson, who is still in the prime of his career and should have just come off his third MVP award. He lost to Josh Allen, and that's fine. But like he should have, is basically a three-time MVP. And so yeah, like good luck to them. But I just don't understand that extension. Um, but hey, I just want to check in real quick with the mock draft as time has progressed. So the NFL draft is pretty soon. The Colorado Buffs just had their pro day. Shador Sanders is still number 3 for me to the New York Giants. I think Cam Ward is locked up at 1. I think Travis Hunter is locked up at 2, or Abdul Carter. If Abdul Carter goes 2, I think Hunter goes 4. If Hunter goes 2, I think Carter goes 4. And a lot of these picks that I'm looking at that I have written down, I still stand by. I really think that a lot of these players match up with a lot of these teams' needs, and some of these players have even been connected to these teams. Um, yeah, one of my favorite players I'm looking at on this sheet right now is Omari and Hampton. As a guy who's been blessed enough to coach the running back position, like watching his tape is like teach tape. He everything he does, from keeping his shoulders square into the line of scrimmage to like eating grass when he can, it's beautiful to see. Let me know who you want your favorite team to draft in the comments below. I want y'all to get interactive in the comments, man. Let me know what's going on. So we can see what's going on. But that's episode 15 in the AM with MC. Thank you for rocking with me. We gone.